Hey yo, this is Mr. Gracie coming to you live. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe. So, I just figured I would go through this lab for you guys, even though I'm not here. Once again, my apologies. But I think you guys are going to be just fine once we go through this. I apologize for the sound of my voice. I don't have a fancy microphone like all your favorite YouTubers and TikTokers and bloggers and all that stuff. So please forgive me, but I'll try my best to just go through this in about 10 or so minutes. So if you look, we talked about the clinical trials, and this was just what we started with. We looked at our purpose, our procedures. Okay, right here, you're going to see if you missed something, you probably missed my cup number right here. That was very important because we didn't want to forget our cup number, which would change our data. So it was very important that you put your cup number, whether you had a 1 or a 2 with the red and pink drink. Now, when you zoom down here, the analysis and the big reveal. So you have the treatment groups had the ones or the odd numbers. You all had 1, and there were 9 of them. And the placebo or control groups had 2 or 12 even numbers. All right. So that was important because if you had a 1, you were part of the treatment group, and if you were 2, you were part of the placebo. Then we just went through and took all of our X's. Our data was there. Then we came out with a total of 12 for placebo, 9 for the experimental. So 8 people said that it was sweeter than, and 4 said that it was less sweet. And then 5 said it was the same. 2 said that they were sweeter than, and 2 said it was less than sweet. So we're going to go back to that shortly because it informs another part of our one of our analysis questions. And you can see most people's graphs look like this. You guys look like you didn't have much trouble doing that. Again, we just graphed it so you could see what it would look like there. Now, this is where I want to spend the bulk of my time, is just explaining these analysis questions. So once again, if you didn't answer on another sheet of paper, you did lose some points. All right, it's really important that you keep this clean because I answered on this just so you guys could see, but yours needed to be cleaner than that because a lot of you are just writing tiny little sentences and it doesn't give you enough room to answer the questions fully. And it's very important that you're answering these questions fully and completely. A good rule of thumb on analysis for your lab, unless it explicitly states if we were to do this differently or blah blah blah, you need to reference your data from the lab. So it asks specifically in some of these, what evidence do you have that the medicine does or does not work to improve headaches? A lot of you are just kind of saying, oh, it does, it doesn't. When we say evidence, I'm asking for evidence from our specific experiment. So right here, I wrote, the medicine probably does not work as only 2 people were given the medicine reported feeling any better, thinking that it was sweeter. More people reported the placebo made them feel better, thinking it was sweeter. So if you go back up, where do we get that information? Well, right here, only 2 people who actually received the medicine received a headache cure with no side effects. That's where you got that information, okay? So that's very important to say. So only 2 out of the 21 people given, that information was, 2 out of the, scooch on up here, 2 out of the 9 people given the medicine actually reported it doing any better. Okay, so it was important to reference that, only 2 people. So we would say that the medicine does not work, okay, to improve those headaches. So then I asked what a placebo is. Placebo, basically, you all got this one pretty much correct. Fake control given to a person in a clinical trial. It has no therapeutic value or medicine in it. It's used to measure the validity of a medication or procedure. So why is a placebo given? Well, it's to compare the effectiveness of a certain drug. And again, it's important that you continue on after you just say that. It's great to just say you're right when you say it compares the effectiveness, but you need to expand it. If you gave everyone a drug and they all report it works or didn't work, you don't know the specific conditions or reasons behind why they reported that. It gives scientists something to compare with. If I gave you all one medication and every single person had the same medication and half of you said it worked, half of you didn't, how do I know why? Okay, so I would need to know if the medication actually works. So then we get into more specifics on number 4. It says, in this simulation, a person reporting a better or worse taste with the pink and red lemon drink compared with the yellow represented a person feeling better after taking a pill for headache relief. So A said, and we use worse. I'm sorry about worse. That should be just less sweet. Okay? Does that just say less sweet? Let me make sure that question just makes sense, because sometimes the questions can get a little goofy. So it said, yeah, sweeter than or less sweet, okay? Sweeter than or less sweet, and that's exactly what it says. Better, so we can change that to even say sweeter. Okay, so I apologize if that wording confused some of you. So it's reporting a sweeter or less sweet taste, with the pink and red lemon drink compared with the yellow represented a person feeling better. A, what represented the medicine? Well, that was the red, that was the sweeter drink, okay? That was your odd numbers, okay? Your odd numbers. What represented the placebo? That was the even numbers. And that information was given way up here at the top, okay? Right here. Treatment group and placebo group. So you found that answer right there. Zoom on back down. The next one, a lot of you got this one mixed up, okay? This one, I was getting answers all over the place. I think only a few of you actually got it, and for that I was rejoicing. There were 19 people affected by the placebo and only 2 people. Because remember, we're talking all 21 people. The placebo effect affects you even if you don't get the placebo. That's the whole point of the placebo effect. So let's look, okay? The only group that was actually got it correct was right here. They were given medicine and they felt better, okay? They were given medicine and they felt better. Even this one, and they actually got it correct, like completely correct. That was the idea, is that they felt better because they said it tasted sweeter than, okay? So, and this was the one that was sweeter than. This was remember, the medicine had 1 extra cup of sugar, all right? So it had 1 extra cup of sugar. Everyone else, this one tasted the exact same and had the same sugar. And not a single person identified that pink and red drink had tasted the same. Nobody did. Everyone either thought it tasted better or tasted less sweet. All right, so you factor those people in. They were also affected by the placebo group. So that already is 8 and 12. All 12 people given the placebo were affected by the placebo because none of them said it tasted the same, even though it did. So all 12 people who were given the placebo fell for the placebo. Then these people thought it tasted less sweet, and these people thought it tasted the same. And guess what? It had 1 extra cup of sugar. Only 2 people correctly identified that it tasted. So that's 5 more people and 2 more people. Okay, so 2 people, 5 people, that's 7, that's 12. That gives you 19 total fell for the placebo effect. And only 2 people identified it correctly. And that's how we get 19 and 2. Okay, so overwhelmingly, 19 out of your 21 classmates fell for the placebo effect. You don't just count the people given the experiment or just given the medicine or the placebo. You have to count everyone. Okay. Lastly, in this activity, if a person finds the drink tastes worse, the headache is gone, but there are side effects. So A, assume that the side effects are mild, such as a slight stomachache. Explain why this medicine should or should not be sold. Are there any trade-offs? Now, I go back to this. Again, you need to reference our data. Okay? You need to reference our data, not just come up with your own. Once again, you would have to assess the severity and probability of developing stomach aches. If, say, 2 out of 100 people experience a slight stomach ache, go ahead and use the medication and just place a disclaimer. If many more experience it, go back to the drawing board. Trade-offs would be whether or not people receive the medication. In our experiment, okay, in our experiment, only 2 people experienced complete relief from a headache with no side effects. And then 2 other people got side effects. I would say overwhelmingly, it was not effective. Okay? So then, same thing. All right? If the side effects were serious as nausea and vomiting. Well, same thing. If a very small sample size experienced nausea and vomiting, then maybe distribute the medication but use discretion. Because even if 10 people experience this, then you really shouldn't distribute the medication. Trade-offs would be whether or not people receive the medication. Because sometimes people need it, sometimes that would be bad if they don't get their medicine. And then it's just, I'm not going to type this out again. But it's the same idea. Reference our data. Okay? Lastly, conclusion. Again, a great conclusion summarizes and concludes. All right, so a great conclusion summarizes and gives a conclusion. So in this activity, if a person finds medicine, yada, 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 you can read, okay? What would you conclude about the safety and effectiveness? Well, according to our results, only 4 out of 9 people thought the medicine tasted better / worse. Let's say, again, I keep using better and worse. Sweeter or less sweet, and I have that illustrated down below. 2 for each, respectively. It shows that less than half of the medicine worked for the people given medication. I would say the effectiveness is quite low, and the company should go back to the drawing board. I would also note it's interesting to see that more people in the placebo group felt better, 8 people, than the actual medicine group, 2, and more had side effects, 4, than the medicine group, 2, because they thought theirs tasted sweeter or less sweeter, sweeter, respectively, even though it had the same sugar. So I wrote this out. In our placebo group, 8 people said they felt better and said it tasted sweeter. 4 said it tasted less sweet. Guess what? Not a single person identified the placebo. The placebo was supposed to taste the same, but all 12 people were tricked. But it's weird that only in the actual one that had 1 extra cup of sugar, only 2 people said it tasted sweeter, and only 2 people said it tasted less sweet, even though they were wrong. Only 2 were correct out of your 9 tested. So 2 said it was less sweet, and then 5 more said it tasted the same. And it's bizarre to me that 5 people said it tasted the same, even though it had 1 extra cup of sugar, and no one identified it tasted the same. Okay? That's what this experiment was about. That was what it was supposed to show and demonstrate, is that the placebo effect is real and it works. And it's something that affects people all the time, and scientists have to take that into account. I would say overwhelmingly, there's no way to tell whether this medication works. 1, because our sample size was small, but you err on and say more or less, it probably does not work, simply because there just wasn't enough people that reacted well to the medicine. So once again, sorry I'm not there for your first test. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. You're going to do well. Circle 1 if you really, really can't answer it. And I will explain, what I want later, and then after I collect it, and I'll take a look and see if it's something that I can, we can talk through later. So good luck on your test. You're going to be okay, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.